Alrighty then, it's time for a jungle Maokai game. Let's get this show on the road. Which one? So, I'm going to be using this video mostly to talk about Maokai's condition so far in the new season. And I have to say, I really love it. I like the fact that certain junglers are able to become more impactful, mostly because Aftershock is a little bit too strong sometimes. But yeah, Maokai's always been a jungler who's been a little bit misused by a lot of players. As a laner, he's very straightforward, and that's kind of all you need. But as a jungler, he has to be a little bit more specialized because all junglers kind of have to do, especially jungler tanks. But before I go on to that, I want to talk about this. My opponent is Jungle Kale. Kale's early clearing is pretty slow, and this Kale, for whatever reason, decided to be even slower by clearing out her first 3 camps. So I just casually invade her, and you know, she's going to be at low health. Anybody could kill her at this point. You know, she flashes over, I did burst her down, and she gets super greedy coming back, so it just kind of flash Q, and then my W comes back and finish her off. That is the definition of greed, and as a result, I get to punish her by stealing her chickens and then going for the Krugs up there. I leave 1 chicken alive just to show her who's boss. So yeah, it's pretty bad for the Kale. She ends up doing this thing where a lot of people do, where she invades my chickens to take away one of my big ones. But, you know, it has absolutely no impact because the amount of time it takes for her to get there is a little bit too detrimental, considering she has camps to clear and all this other stuff. But, yeah, whatever. Her smite would have probably been better off used for a much more difficult to clear camp, a.k.a. the Krug, or I mean the Froggy. Like, she murders wraiths. Anyways, I'm, you know, getting a little bit too ahead of myself. The early game was a little bit slow, so I'll talk about Maokai in that sense. Like I said, Aftershock made a lot of jungle tanks a lot more deadly. At least jungle tanks who can be on top of you when the Aftershock goes off. Like, I tried it on, what's-his-face, Nautilus, and it's not exactly the best because you're not always on top of somebody when it goes off, so it's a little bit sad. But on champions like Maokai and Zac and even Sejuani, like, you know, it's pretty damn good when you get in there and it explodes. It's like it gives you an added amount of boost, you know, oomph to your attack, and it's pretty significant. When I've been playing Maokai, I have felt it made a huge difference because in the past, I've had situations where I go in and the enemy just survives with a sliver of health. Because Maokai, for how good his ganks are, his chase potential is pretty bad. And his damage is pretty mediocre until he gets, you know, higher levels and has better cooldowns. Essentially, most of his things ended up where he goes in there, uses his Q, and hopes his Pikmin somehow hits somebody, and now in this case, hopes his Pikmin hits them when it's empowered. So he only has really 2 abilities that do any damage, his W and his Q, and sometimes maybe his E. But now with the Aftershock, he gets this little explosion. And I know it's not like killer damage, but it gives him, you know, enough to chunk the enemy down, so hopefully your teammates can do something. Anyways, this fight gets a little funny. Lux gets finished off with a Draven, and you know, my teammates are a little retreating, but I'm like, we can easily take down the Cassiopeia. She's got no mana. My teammate teleports in from top lane, the Cho'Gath. The Maokai comes in and gets an ultimate on 3 people, including the guy who just ulted in. So then the Jinx gets taken down. The Cho'Gath goes in and kills the Jinx, but the Janna kind of slowly, you know, just decided to back away, even though she was totally healthy and she could have supported the Cho'Gath, and maybe the Cho'Gath could have fought a little bit more. But whatever. It was a really messy fight on both parts. Here I use my ultimate and just kind of catch the poor Veigar. It's like, no. And just by the end of that cooldown, catch him, and he just gets obliterated. He tries to run, he tries to flash, but I have the blue spike. Anyways, with the whole Aftershock burst, that's why I also advocate taking the blue smite. I know it doesn't really add too much damage, but combined with everything, you know, like here, W in, I get the Aftershock power, boom, Q use my Q, it deals with quite a bit of damage. You know, I did about 1/3 of her health, you know, close to 1/3 of her health. That's more than before. And that's pretty significant because if she decides to continue on fighting, I'll do about as much damage again through the next thing, and then she can't really fight back. I have a lot of crowd control. Again, Maokai excels in prolonged fights, and 1/3 of somebody's health in the initial blow is pretty significant, enough to give at least your teammate the edge to finish out the fight for you. I mean, let alone the fact that you're still there to back him up too, right? So it's pretty deadly. Again, you might think I'm giving it a lot of praise, but Maokai was, in terms of, you know, killing potential in the beginning, was a little bit of an edge case where he just didn't have that little bit enough to do it. Anyways, Maokai comes in, hits me in Cho'Gath, and I want you to see this movement. I use my ultimate, and I go immediately to the KO to start fighting her, sort of, and I retreat to my Lux. I know I could have supported the Cho'Gath initially, but that didn't matter because the Cho'Gath wasn't going to die. I retreated instead to the Lux, so because the KO wouldn't be able to do anything to me, and even much less so when the Lux showed up, and that became a very clean, well, kill. I then give the enemy myself as a target, instead made them have to focus Cho'Gath. So the Cho'Gath, it was like this. If they focused me, the Cho'Gath would rend him alive, and, you know, he wouldn't get hurt. If I ran away, the same thing, and they chased after me, the Cho'Gath would still rend them alive. So they kind of had to cut their losses and decide, maybe we can kill the Cho'Gath. Either way, flashed in, punched the hell out of the, snake chick, and then just sort of beat her slowly to death with my tree arms. That's kind of what I mean. Essentially, in a prolonged fight, Maokai is really good, and thanks to Aftershock, his initial burst is like, beautiful. So, I've been liking him, and I gotta say, his ultimate kind of grew on me. I still don't like it as much as his old one, and I know I failed like almost every ultimate this game so far, but I promise I got better at it as much more as I practice it. So far, Maokai has been my second go-to tank right now. Him and Zach are the ones I've been spamming the most for my jungle tanks this season. Mostly because I have this whole masochistic thing like, my teammates in solo queue can probably carry me, which is not always the case. But Maokai is such a momentum-based jungle ganker who transitions into a very good tank that I just love him. Like, I love that about him. It's like, I don't have to fear going in and just start beating people, because I'm pretty much difficult to kill, and there's very little they can do once I press my W. Most characters are gonna get snared, and there's nothing they can do about it. Champions like Ezreal who try to blink away, they'll still get sniped by the W. He's a very aggressive champion, and again, he's an aggro magnet, which makes him even deadlier, meaning if you ignore, like, if he goes in, he's going to get the attention because he's going to lock someone down, and he could kill them eventually over time, but he's not easy enough to kill, so it just kind of demands a lot of PO and attention. But yeah, just super aggressive, and I can't really get punished by it at this point. Anyways, the important thing that I wanted to say that a lot of players don't realize about Jungle Maokai, and so that makes him a lot less of an attractive pick for a lot of people, aside from the fact that a lot of people just kind of find him a little bit boring, is that unlike lane Maokai, your gold isn't exactly guaranteed, and your build path isn't exactly allowing certain luxuries. In the jungle, Maokai is susceptible extremely to the enemy composition, because certain compositions he can't safely initiate as much as I've been praising it. He can't be expected to do as much damage, so you have to tailor him, so to speak, towards, you know, the enemy team composition. Like, a lot of the item suggestions Riot gives to him, I just completely ignore them. In this case, I went Boots of Swiftness just because, you know, they've got mostly weird little slows. And I know they do have some hard snares, but if they snare me, they're just kind of doing something wrong. However, though, I want to talk about this team fight here. This is actually one of the most beautiful team fights I've ever had. Cho'Gath splits the enemy team, thus making Malphite's ultimate nearly completely useless, and I completely cornered the Cassiopeia, made sure she couldn't do anything. She couldn't even use her ultimate before she finally got killed. Watch that team fight again. It is clearly one of the most beautiful team fights I have ever seen or have played with. Cho'Gath basically made 3 of their members not participate in the fight, while my teammates took down Malphite after he was able to ult them really well, actually. Props to him. But there was nobody there to take any advantage of it, so he just promptly got killed. And Cassiopeia, I pushed her out, because if once I got on top of her, she knew she would be such an ineffective fighter, and I'd eventually kill her. So she was forced to, you know, fuck off. And eventually she saw that the fight was turning sour and that she needed to participate or else it was going to get bad. But at that point it was too late. Such a beautiful team fight. And there's another one like that coming. This ultimate here, I used it because I thought Malphite was going to tower dive the Jinx, but whatever. But anyways, Maokai is misunderstood in that his item builds are need to be like very strict and flexible in a sense. You can't just build them like damage or something. You're gonna get punished. Like in this case, again, I went Righteous Glory very quickly, or I went Righteous Glory after Boost of Swifties and Spirit Visage, just to survive stuff like Cassiopeia's thing and get myself in there. I need to be able to survive all their crappy little, you know, spells and whatnot, and get in there and control the Draven and the Cassiopeia. You can see, because of this build, it's actually kind of difficult to kill me and control me. And I also took it also in part because I have a Cho'Gath who's also going to be another sponge. A double front line of fatties who are going to nullify as much magic damage as possible. And survive in a way on that. But I've had games where I've built Maokai with Righteous Glory, the Iceborne Gauntlet, or built him, you know, with Knight's Vow and stuff like that. Essentially, aura carrier builds on Maokai are the jungle Maokai to be exact, are the way to go. So, you know, do that. I know I'm getting text in the background. I don't know that might catch that, but yeah. Anyways, so far, you know, this game is going in my team's favor, and we can still lose technically because our team comp is kind of, you know, very compact. Me and Cho'Gath can't carry the game, but we can enable our teammates to carry the game. But anyways, get ready for this. So I try to initiate with my ultimate. I catch nobody. It barely misses them at the end. You know, it's getting very little, you know, crazy. But Cho'Gath and me get to do the same thing we did before. I'm sitting in the back here to protect my teammates, while he is going to just sort of waltz in there and just start, you know, splitting the enemy team up. The Malphite cannot initiate on us because his teammates would not be able to take advantage of that. In the meantime, Carol's in a completely bad position, and she gets picked off and her flash kills her. Malphite decides to, you know, last-ditch initiate because it's a good one, but again, nobody on this team is there to take advantage of it. Even less so now that Janna used her ultimate. The enemy team completely broken and unable to participate in that entire fight. We're pretty much, you know, shoved out. But then as a result of that, they just kind of get destroyed. So, the huge MVP of this was me and the Maokai combination of just completely controlling them in the entire fight. That was glorious, and that is beautiful, and I love this combination. And remember, if you enjoyed the video, make a comment below in the comment section, and also give the video a like. That helps the channel a lot more than you think.